Unbroken the Podcast with Madeline Black. Healing through storytelling.
Hello and welcome to Unbroken the Podcast with me, Madeline Black, speaking to incredible people that I've met along my journey that have been through some challenging times and have bounced forward in life, not just back. And now they are all making a difference for other people. And my guest today is somebody that I met on social media, and I did exactly what my children told me I should never do. I met her in real life. They said actually she could be catfishing me, Mum, you shouldn't do that. And she wasn't. She was just as fabulous, even more fabulous in real life than she is in the Twitter world. So my guest today is Lisa Kohn. Lisa Kohn is the author of To the Moon and Back, A Childhood Under the Influence, as well as The Power of Thoughtful Leadership. She's a writer, teacher, and public speaker who owns a leadership consulting and executive coaching firm, and who now works to bring to others the tools, mind shifts, and practices she has found that have helped her heal, as well as the hope and forgiveness she has been blessed to let into her life. She will always tell you that she's a native New Yorker, but she currently lives in Pennsylvania. I will say good afternoon, but good morning to you, Lisa Kohn, because it's morning where you are in Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon, good morning, both. Absolutely.
How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I have to tell you that I laughed when you said that about Twitter, because not only did I see you that day, and I was told never to do that, I stayed with somebody whom I also met on Twitter, and everyone was like, oh my God, you need a hotel. I said, I don't even know what town they're in, so I can't get a hotel just in case.
Well, I think sometimes it's okay to trust their instincts.
Sometimes it's okay to trust the people. I remember when they told me you'll make friends on Twitter, and I thought never, and then I found you. Yes.
So the very first question I ask everyone who comes onto the show is, what does that word unbroken mean to you?
Wow. I had never thought about that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen your book since before it was a book, right? Wow, it's a beautiful word. So what I will tell you is that my book was published in 2018, a little after yours. Mm-hmm. And I realized when it came out that I still thought I was damaged, that I was broken, mm-hmm. right? That I was, cracked, irretrievably cracked. And I learned that I'm not damaged, I have damage.
Yes.
I have scars.
Yes.
Like if you hurt your knee and then it flares up, you feel it aches when it's gonna rain, right? That's all I have. So as you say that, I think that's what it means to me. So many people, I know I did, walk around believing we're broken, and we're not, right? And so there's healing and recovery, and then there's actually healing and recovery when you say, hey, I'm good, just like this, I'm good. So thank you for making me think about that. I've always loved your title, and only now has it sunk in. It's like I feel it going down into my heart and my very being as I think about that. So thank you.
That's okay. So your book, To the Moon and Back, really is about your childhood, which was really, you had your feet in two very different worlds, really, didn't you?
Two very different, wonderful worlds. So I'll do it for you. The way I describe my childhood is the best seats I ever had at Madison Square Garden or at my mother's wedding. And for those of you who don't know what that means, my mom got married in July 1st, 1982, with 2,075 other couples in Madison Square Garden, a mass wedding overseen by Reverend Sun Myung Moon. So I was a Moonie, raised in the Unification Church, best friends with his kids. I was raised in a cult with one foot in a fanatical, puritanical cult, right? On the other side, the best cocaine I ever had was from my father's friend, the judge, because we lived with my dad, and his life was a life of sex, drugs, and squalor in New York City's East Village in the 70s. So I was raised in these two contrasting, either one is enough to make you a little bit wacky worlds.
But for a long time, you loved being in the Moonies, didn't you? I remember that you said that, we're all susceptible to being in a cult, and it offered you things that you wanted: certainty, purpose, and community.
Yeah, so I do say that everyone, and I've been corrected, everyone except a sociopath and someone who has huge psychosis, or maybe someone already in a totalitarian environment, all the rest of us at the wrong time, wrong place, are susceptible, because it does give us absolute certainty, purpose beyond belief in a community you'll never have again. And we crave that as human animals. But for me, especially myself and my brother, I was 10 when my mom joined, and our life was chaotic beforehand, right? It was still, my parents were hippies and there were abusive boyfriends and a lot of sex and a lot of nudity and a lot of drugs and a lot of just instability. And I hated that. And so when my mom joined the church, it was like a haven. It was structure, it was rules. It was a lot of people who loved me, supposedly unconditionally. So yeah, I mean, that is the craziness of these two crazy worlds, is each one gave me something and saved me from the other. Yeah, when we joined, and I will tell you, having a Messiah is the most intoxicating drug ever. It's the best feeling ever. Like, trust me. So yeah, trust me, they're bad, cults are bad, but it felt really good at the time. Someone who's in a cult doesn't think they're in a cult, and they do feel fulfilled by being in that situation.
Yes, so it kind of filled a gap in your life, I guess, didn't it? It served a purpose for you at that time.
Yes.
And it was only really when you went away, was it to a music camp, that you met other people and you started to question the lifestyle?
Yeah, so the summer between, I'll do it in the American, my junior and senior year, so my 10th and 11th year.
How old are you? Because that doesn't mean anything to me.
So yes, I know, I'm trying to translate. So I was 16,
Okay.
Almost 17. My dad sent me to music camp this summer because every other holiday, summer, weekend, anything, I was always at the church. Literally the year before, I'd been out in Seattle, in Washington State on the West Coast, proselytizing, trying to win in members. So he sends me to music camp to keep me away from the church. And for the first time, I became friends with people who, known to me, are gay or bisexual.
And the Moonies don't approve of people that aren't.
Oh, big sin, big, like, right. And I write to my mom and I say, what should I do? And she says, they're sinful, they're evil. You can convert them or stay away from them. And that was the first time it didn't make sense to me. I didn't agree. And you have to understand, when you're in an extreme situation, you are controlled, right? So we were taught that if you ever questioned anything, if you had any doubts, it was Satan worming his way into your brain, trying to pull you away from God. So as soon as I think, I don't know that I agree, I'm like, oh my God, Satan is inside me.
Quite a powerful message, really, isn't it?
It is a brilliant way to control.
As well,
Absolutely.
really.
Absolutely. So I learned never to want, never to think, never to feel, never to need, never to, have a thought for myself. I learned all that. So this was the first time. And that was the first thing that kind of cracked me, because I didn't agree, and that was terrifying. And then to finish the story, I come home from music camp. So I am not only a Moonie, I'm best friends with his children, the true children, like the children of the Messiah. Mm-hmm. And I'm also best friends with children who are called blessed children. So they have these huge marriages, they're blessings. And the people who are blessed in marriage by Moon, their original sin is removed, and their blessed children are born without original sin. So I'm friends with these people who are way more holy and special than I am. And I come back from music camp, and one of my friends, one of the blessed children, was seduced by her Sunday school teacher. This is the soap opera part. She's seduced by her Sunday school teacher, and in order to keep anyone from noticing, she spreads rumors about me. She basically says, I want to sleep with all the brothers. And Moon hears the rumors, believes the rumors, and makes a decree that only blessed children can play with the true children. In other words, he made a decree to keep me away from his kids. I like to say my Messiah literally banished me. So I come home from music camp knowing Satan is in me because I'm questioning. And then the Messiah goes, yeah, Satan's in you, go away. And yes, so that was the very beginning.
It must have been a really confusing time for you.
It was horrific. I can't even really fathom it or feel it or begin to explain it. And I go home, I go back to my last year in school, and I decide that I joined as a child, as a 10-year-old child. I followed my mother in, so I'm going to pull back as a 17-year-old to make an adult decision to come back in and never question again. And then I start spending more time with my dad and start spending more time at school and becoming friends with people. And I find more love there. And then I experiment with alcohol and get drunk at a party and kiss a boy. And then I have a boyfriend, which is the other huge sin, and everything blows up. And I go off to uni, determined to break up with him, but I don't. And then I just slowly drift away. But I believed that he was the Messiah. Moon was the Messiah when I left. Mm-hmm. So I'm pulling away because I don't want to do it. But I know that I deserve to die. Like I almost jumped off a bridge my first year at uni. And I can tell you, right, because this is about Unbroken, couple months ago, I'm in therapy, in virtual therapy, sitting in a park, and I realized there's still a part of me that thinks I should have jumped because of leaving. That's 40
Because
years
you turned
later.
your back on them.
Sorry?
Because you turned your back on them.
Because I turned my back on God.
Okay. And even though he kind of turned his back on you, though.
Yeah, right. And so, like, I know that's not true, but that's how deeply it's carved into you, that there's still this kernel of sin and shame and guilt for not being as good a person as I was supposed to be. All lies, but all carved. Yeah, so
really,
it wasn't easy to leave.
Really strong conditioning, isn't it?
Really strong conditioning. It is if you join one of these groups, a cult, but even more so when you're raised in it, it literally pickles your brain and carves your brain in very specific ways. And it just, it stays with you for life. I was just talking to someone about it yesterday. I talked to we're called second gens, those of us born and or raised, and we are so similar in really weird ways on the inside because we all experience this. You know, when our brain was supposed to be developing, it was held in a box, or a cage.
It was manipulated, really, wasn't it?
It really was manipulated. But if you're told never to question because it's Satan, and what happened to us when we first joined, my mom sat us down and said, I feel really compelled to be more involved. What should I do, children? And we said, you should leave us. So she asked us, we told her to leave. And then I knew if I ever missed her, I was sinful. So I didn't let myself miss her, and I didn't let myself be sat. So I was manipulated and held like this. Absolutely.
And for me, what was hard in your book is that she left you to go back into it, but to look after other people's children. And she's not looking after her own children. It just didn't make any sense I'm a mother, obviously, from a mother's point of view. How could you do that to your own kids?
Yeah, and I will tell you, to this day, I meet other people who are now obviously grown adults who say, oh, your mom took such good care of me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And for a really long time, my mom would literally call up my brother and I and say, I just talked to so-and-so. They are so traumatized because their mother left them. And we'd be like, yeah, they are. And even now, you know, such conditioning, this is how I see it. She still can't see that it was incredibly wrong to do what she did. Her brain still is protecting her belief of, but, you know, I was led to do it, so it must have been an okay thing.
And she's no longer involved with the Moonies now, is she?
She left in 1996 when my first kid was born, but she's only now maybe beginning to look at what it really is.
And do they still exist?
They do, even in Scotland, even in the UK. They are, I used to say they've really just assimilated, which is true. They now live next door to you and you don't notice as much. But here in the States, they're a little bit more noticeable. So they've Moon died in about 8 years ago, and they've broken into 3 factions. One that's run by his former wife, Hak Jahan, one that's run by 2 of his older children, and one that's run by his 2 youngest sons. And they here in the States, they're in another part of Pennsylvania, and they're the ones, they've been covered on the, on newspapers. They had a wedding ceremony to which they brought AR-15s, automatic rifles, because Sean Moon preaches that the rod of iron in the Bible is a gun. And I like to point out to people, okay, here are people who believe extremely fanatically that Sean Moon, if he's not the Messiah, at least is the son of the King of Kings, who has armed them and taught them to fight. In my country that is split. Yeah, it's a little bit
quite dangerous,
terrifying.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you decided to obviously share your story in your amazing book, To the Moon and Back. What has the reception been, from, I don't know if you hear from people that are still in the Moonie community, or?
I don't, when it first came out, I got a couple trolls on Facebook and stuff who just blasted me. And literally one of them, I'm like, made it sound like they knew me. And I reached out to someone because I have connected with just about everyone in the book. And I'm like, do I know this person? They're like, no. The head of the PR at the Unification Church, or whatever they're called now. I was on a Megyn Kelly on national television when the book first came out. That was woohoo, right? And they gave this statement that said, we are so sorry that Lisa was traumatized by her parents' divorce. It's very easy to leave the church. She had never read the book. And there are a couple people who've reached out to me, and basically with understanding and with kindness. I get a lot of connections from people who have left my church, my cult, people who have left other cults, and people who just have trauma in their background of any sort, right? Because I like to say my story is quite unique. Only my older brother has the same dichotomy, right? But as we know, unfortunately, the themes are quite universal. So I've gotten a lot of positive response from people who have been touched by my story and my ability to tell the story, you know, and my healing and going on to my healing.
It impacted you on quite a way, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, drug taking, which is, I guess, not a normal response, but it's one of the many ways we can respond to trauma.
Yes. You know, I was just last night talking with one of the kids, one of the blessed children I grew up with, because I reconnected, and we're doing a project for high school, for school students, teenagers, where she teaches. And then she started telling me some of her background, and she started talking about addiction. And I'm like, of course, we are all so scarred, not damaged, right, but have damage from what happened to us. And I do believe, like, yes, my first year I almost jumped off the bridge. My second year I became incredibly anorexic. My third year I did a hell of a lot of cocaine. And my fourth year I just started being in worse and worse and more abusive relationships.
You and your brother
all to punish myself, right?
And you and your brother really kind of brought yourselves up, didn't you?
Yeah. The hardest part of COVID, I say, almost, right, is not seeing my brother, because I've gone through, he is the one constant in my childhood. You know, I wouldn't be here without him. I'm very lucky, yes. So we literally raised each other and have a connection that is incredibly special indeed.
And now you, because I know, because when I met you over in Edinburgh, you now speak at conferences about cults and what that all means and recovery. And tell us a little bit more about that.
So you've probably heard me say, I have 3 messages. So I wrote the book, you're going to laugh, like not even thinking about what I was doing, just like I did it. And then it came out, and it's fascinating to be this naked in front of the world, right? As you also know, right? You're like, you know, and I have a leadership consulting and executive coaching firm, and I'll go meet someone I haven't met before, and they'll say, oh, I Googled you. And I'm like, great, because I'm still the first 3 pages that come up, right? So I'm out here, but I have 3 messages, and they are: extremist situations exist. They're incredibly prevalent. They're all over. They're unbelievably intoxicating and extremely dangerous, right? And there are ways to stay out and to get out, but they're there, and I want people to know, which is why I do a lot of speaking. The other reason I do a lot of speaking, and this goes for cult survivors and especially second-gen survivors, and then for everyone from trauma, for anyone who feels hopeless or damaged beyond repair, as you know, there is hope, and you're not damaged, and that's huge to me. And then the third is, from my work and my life and everyone I know, as a species, I'm convinced we are, at least almost all of us, way too hard on ourselves. We're so mean, we're critical and lambasting and judging to ourselves. And we need a hand on the heart, huge dose of self-love and self-compassion. So I speak absolutely anywhere, for free, for paid, for whatever, book clubs. To spread the message, because I think they're hugely important messages. And every time my story helps somebody else, then it's all worth it. Like I wouldn't wish it on anyone else, but I am whom I am because I went through it. And now the fact that I can talk about it and other people find a way to their own happiness, as you know, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky.
So that girl, that younger Lisa, standing on that bridge thinking, oh, I'm going to jump, it's not worth it. What would she say now, looking at you now? Because you really are in a really good, secure place, kids, married, happy, lovers in your life. You know, you've changed, transformed so much since then.
Yeah. Wow. You know, I very rarely get asked questions I've never been asked before, but you've done that quite a few times, and that is a good one. You know, especially because there's that mistaken part of me that thinks, so, you know, when I do reading, I'm almost always read that part, standing on the bridge. And what was really going through me was, I can't choose. It's safer to die than to have to walk away, right? I have to die rather than walk away. I can't walk away, so I'll die.
You can't choose to leave the church?
I can't choose to leave the church, right? Too hard. I don't want to go back, but I can't choose to leave, so I'm going to die. I'd rather die a physical death than die a spiritual death. Mm-hmm. Well, wow, I'm seeing her, thank you. She's crying. Yeah. She's still scared, still a little confused, but has no idea. It's kind of hearing me say, maybe it's okay, maybe it's okay, maybe it's okay. That is what got me out. I have a very dear person who listened to me almost every night go, but what if it's right? But what if it's right? Until he finally said, what if it is right, but it's not right for you? Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, that's what I clung to. And so that's, yeah, she's looking at me in awe and disbelief, because not only was all the guilt and shame, but I never knew a life like this existed, right? I never knew. I'm 57 years old and I'm standing finally in my power and feeling anger and feeling feelings and having boundaries. And, I will literally say to my counselor, my therapist, oh, other people actually say this is what I want and I don't care what you think. Like, I love you, but you can think whatever you want about it. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, how did you do that? Really?
It almost took away your ability to have your own opinion, to have your own thought process. It was all done for you.
It was all done for me. And I knew that any of them that I had were sinful, so I didn't let myself have them. So yeah, she's just actually in awe that this exists and that it's mine. So, wow, thank you. That is like, wow.
Yeah, well, I guess there's a huge strength in you that she wouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
But maybe it was that goodness and that strength that stopped you jumping.
Yeah, I do believe, we add meaning as we go along, probably, but because people always say, why didn't you jump? Why did you start eating again? Why did you stop doing cocaine? How did you not marry an alcoholic? How did you end up in a happy space, marriage and family?
People are nosy, aren't they?
they are really nosy. Well, you write a memoir and they get really nosy. And I've never really known why. I don't know. I'm lucky, but I do believe that love, I base my life on love. My God is love.
Yeah, I don't know. Luck. That's not luck then, is it? You've got your
No,
own.
it's not. Yeah. Right. And honestly, the love of the church saved me when I was a kid. The love of my friends saved me when I left. Mm-hmm. And it is love that saves me every day. And she did not know that. She did not feel that in any way. And mostly self-love, right? Self-love.
Mostly, I would say that's a huge part, isn't it? To really start to appreciate ourselves, love ourselves, and realize you're just a kid put into a situation where you were in a box. They had clipped your wings, really, hadn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't even know that because you don't know anything other than that, and you think you're lucky to have your wings clipped if you ever think that your wings are clipped. So it is quite a mind twist. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And you said your dad is love.
My God is love.
Your God is love.
I would never say that about either of my parents.
I thought you said your dad was love. I missed that. Your God.
No, that's okay. My dad had a stroke 13 years ago. He's half paralyzed. He's a very old 77-year-old man in a nursing home. And I am blessed with love and compassion that I'm his primary caregiver and I can do that. But yeah, I would never, he's got a lot. He's mushy on the inside, not on the outside. Not an easy person on the outside, but yeah.
But he had years and years and years of chemical abuse, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When he ended up in the hospital with this stroke, the doctor said, what happened? And my dad said, I partied too much. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
And he was really responsible, as we read in the book, for introducing you both to drugs, wasn't he?
Yes, my brother when he was 10 and me at a later age, yes. But the first time I felt close to my father is when I did cocaine with him, right? Because I know how weird that sounds, but it's true, yes. But one of the weird dichotomies of my life, again, is my mom always said, I love you, I love you, I love you, and always left and always put us last and just chose the church and other people over us every single time. And my dad could never express love, but took care of us, took us in. So
I guess when you were snorting cocaine together, it's a shared experience, really, wasn't it? Something you could do.
Although it's really funny because it was right after the anorexia. So he would literally, his friend, the judge, would bring this literally, I was doing a book reading and my high school boyfriend was in the audience and I said something about the cocaine and from the back you hear, that was really good cocaine. like mounds, right? And I would do it with my dad and then we'd go out to dinner and I wouldn't eat and he'd yell at me for not eating and I'm like,
yes.
But yes. Yeah.
So apart from the love, and it's not really luck, how do you think you have recovered? Because it's not just recovery, you are very resilient, really. You are thriving, I would say.
So yeah, it's not post-traumatic stress disorder, it's post-traumatic growth, and I'm thriving. A lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of trauma therapy. I'll out it here. I have forgotten I put it on a blog post that was quoted on the last place I was interviewed. So I have done EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy. And I literally, there were like 3 weeks in a row where my therapist, my counselor would only let me come at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday because the building was empty, because she put these buzzers in my hand and I would scream for an hour. So I have thrown up, like my body holds a trauma. So I've done a lot of work on trauma, a lot of self-care, a lot of like everything in front of me. It is love. It is mostly self-love. It is compassion. It is, as you said, realizing it happened to me. It's not my fault. And it's really, and I use this a lot in my coaching work as well, right? So when things happen to us when we're young, we interpret them, we misinterpret them, we make up lies and explanations and beliefs in our head that save us. As you know, right? Those things really literally saved my life, the way I learned to be such a perfectionist and all of those things. And now as an adult, they don't help me anymore, but they still come in and they try, like they think they're saving me, right? They think they're serving. So you really have to do this. I've like worked with all my different parts, right? And be like, thank you, honey. Thank you for being, but I'm okay. It's safe. It's not the same thing. I got it. I'm an adult. Yes, I know you're afraid of anger. I can do it. Yeah.
But that's only really when you see that, isn't it? When you see these old habits are no longer needed. Because sometimes we don't see it and we still just fall into the same patterns and habits and not healthy behaviors. But I think we always do the best that we do at the time with the tools that we have. And now it's really just what you're saying is you've just expanded more and more. So they're out of date. They need updating.
I will tell you, and the special thing about some of my tools, my perfectionism, right, and my drive to do things, they're very slippery to put down, because I literally, the number of times I'll be in a conversation with a friend, and I was like a while ago working out something with my mom, and I was like, well, maybe I should I'm just trying to be evolved and try harder and be more loving and give more. And they'll be like, that's your perfectionism. Or like even my counselor would be like, you love too much. You gotta pull back a little bit. You gotta stop being so nice. Like, I'm just being nice. She's like, no, you're trying to control it and be perfect. And so it's hard to figure it out.
It's hard to find a balance, but I don't think you could ever be kind or nice enough.
Well, as long as you don't,
as long as it's not as a depth
yourself in the process, right? So there's being nice, and there's being so nice and putting yourself last.
Yeah, not
even
sentimental. Yeah.
So that's the line I walk.
Yeah. So any final advice for anyone that's listening right now? Maybe they've been in a cult, or they are in a cult, or know someone. What would you say?
I would say get help. There's help. Talk to someone. When I left, I did not, if there was a community, I couldn't find it, but I would say you are not alone. No matter what you're facing, you're not alone. There's the ICSA, International Cultic Studies Association, ICSAHome.org is an organization worldwide that can help you find someone to talk to. I would say if you know someone in a cult, don't tell them it's a cult. Keep them, love them, and keep them with you, because anyone in a cult knows they're not in a cult. But if you are in that,
the Moonies is one of cults. There's quite a few cults around, really, aren't there?
There are so many, and literally, I mean, I was talking to someone on a podcast about Mormons, and she said, did you ever meet a Mormon? I said, yes, when I was proselytizing, when I was trying to bring Moonies, I met this Mormon, and I kept thinking, oh my God, what a crazy religion you're part of. Right? And I just watched The Vow about Nixium, the horrific cult here. And the person, one of the things he said is, nobody joins a cult. They join a good thing, and then they realize they've been duped, right? Well, that's not the word he used. So if you're there, find someone outside to talk to, no matter how terrifying. Take care of yourself first. Don't let yourself get hurt, but find someone to talk to, because there is a way out. There is hope. You can get out. You can be better. You can be happy. It's a long and if you're out and you're working on it, hang on. It does get better. it does get better. It really does. As you know, same with your story, right? It's hell to go through, and you do come out at the other side. And then every now and then you go into the hell, but it's never like it really was when it was full hell. So
I think that is a perfect place to end, just to hold on, and it will get better. It is a process. It's not an overnight fix, but it definitely does get better with the right help, support, and love.
yes.
Lisa, thank you so much. It's such a joy to see your face. Thank you.
Thank you, love.
Take care.
Unbroken the Podcast with Madeline Black. Playing now on all the main platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher for Android, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and here. Play Unbroken the Podcast with Madeline Black.